The difference between an advisor and a mentor is an advisor would tell you what they would do if they were in your shoes, and a mentor tells you what they did do when they were in your shoes, right? So I don't want to go to a financial advisor. Some young guy calls me, hey, I just got my financial advisor certificate. I'm 22 years old. Let me tell you how to invest your money. Like, dude, you're broke. I don't want to take advice from you. People say they want to go in business for themselves because they don't want to have a boss. You have multiple bosses. Every customer you work for is a boss. Your last customer is a boss because they have maintenance stuff. Your new customer is a boss because you have to get the contract and the deposit and stuff. So it's not all it's cracked up to be. I realized I wasn't saved, and I had so much pride I didn't want to tell anybody. So I had to tell my fiance. I couldn't even get a credit card. I applied for a credit card and I got denied because I had no credit. So I had to do like a secure credit card where you put $500 in a bank and they give you a credit card for $500.
You know, it looks like your family, although you did go down that rebellious road for a couple years or whatever in your teen years, at least you still had a good foundation that you didn't do completely foolish things. Like you were still good with your money. You're still a hard worker. You had work ethic.
And I have a mortgage on it. So I paid back my line of credit. That's back down to zero. 10 grand in my pocket. I think my mortgage was $900 a month. Mortgage, tax, insurance, $900 a month. I rented it for $2,000 a month.
See, I guess that's the benefit of getting married when you're in your early 20s, is both of you have low expectations.
We were just so happy to be married and to be out on our own. You know, years ago, I went to a real estate conference, 2018, and they were all like, go big or go home. You know, you got to buy a 100-unit complex and for $10 million, and you got to syndicate and invest other people's money and do all this stuff. And I'm just like, nope, we're just going to keep going. One house here, one house there, slow and steady. And a lot of those guys went belly up. Bankrupt, lost it all. The market changed, rates went up, insurance went up.
You want to have some more content, you want to get closer to God, check out our YouTube channel, Lehigh Valley Baptist Church. Watch the preaching, especially on Sunday mornings. Or if you're in the area, come to church. It's at 10:15 a.m. on Sundays. We would love to have you and be our guest. They left me behind.
I've been stuck here ever since.
How long you been going to the church? Your whole life?
28 years.
No way.
Yeah, I came here at 13 years old, my family, and I've been here ever since.
So where you at in life now? Like your business, family?
I have a business. I have a couple different businesses, real estate businesses, property management businesses, a remodeling construction company that I'm winding down. 4 kids.
You're winding wife. Down. How long have you had that?
15 years.
And how many employees?
Across all of our companies, probably about 15, 16 employees. Wonderful wife, 4 wonderful daughters, good business, good partner in my business, and everything's good. Life is good. God is good. I'm super blessed. I don't deserve anything.
Yeah, so you built your dream home for your family, like a couple years ago?
Yeah, 4 years ago.
4 years ago, and how long did that take?
So we bought an old stone farmhouse right before COVID, and 2 weeks before the COVID lockdown came, we bought it. Life was still normal. Everything was fine, and we closed, and 2 weeks later they had the 2-week stop the spread shutdown. So it took months to get permits and all that stuff, but we basically renovated a stone farmhouse, put on an addition, and then we moved in. So that took maybe 6 to 9 months because of the COVID holding it up. But yeah, we love it.
That's awesome. So every day were you kind of hands-on on that project?
I was there every day checking on it. I learned to not do everything myself, to hire guys to do it. So I had a lot of my guys work there. They're better than me at stuff. You know, my guys can install trim better than I can. They can do plumbing faster than I can. And they've kind of outlearned me because when I started the construction business, I was doing it all myself. I was the one doing the drywall, the plumbing, the framing, the trimming. And then
at what age did you get started?
So I guess go back to the beginning. I was a teenager. I started working for a guy at the church doing drywall and metal framing construction at like 16 years old, and did that during the summers. Went back to school during. I was homeschooled my whole life, and then worked construction. When I got out of high school, my parents wanted me to go to college, which I wasn't really big into.
What type of college? Like anything?
Anything.
Okay.
Just go to college, so I wouldn't be a bum. But college wasn't for me. I learned better hands-on. I learned better watching YouTube videos, listening to podcasts, and seeing things than sitting in a classroom reading a book. Reading instructions to me doesn't make me learn. Watching YouTube, even with no words, just watching someone fix something or put something together is how I learn. Worked construction as a teenager, and then turned 18. I graduated early, went to a community college my senior year of high school for marketing and business management. And it was okay, but it was just something to do. And then when I got out, I was still working. I was working a couple days a week for a construction company.
Now, I'm just going to stop you for 1 second. Now, you say that kind of like it's nothing, and I understand that is the majority of people. But for like me, if I went to college for a year, that meant I didn't make as much money, which I had to pay all my bills, which was really hard. And then it also meant that I had to pay for college. And now I got this big college bill, what, $12,000 or something. Like, what does that look like?
So I was 17, went to community college, and it was only like a couple $1,000 a year. So I had worked from when I was 15, saved my money during the summers, worked for painting, construction, whatever I could. So I had a couple $1,000 in the bank.
Okay, so your parents just gave you a place to stay, but they didn't like pay for your college?
No, I lived at home, and at 17, of course, lived at home, and I paid my college as I went, community college. And then I was going to go to Temple University. I got accepted there down in Ambler campus. I got my driving pass and my cards and all that stuff ready to go. But I was doing 2 days a week community college. 2 days a week I was working construction, and 1 day a week I do my homework. So I loved the 2 days of working. I look forward to that. I hated the 2 days of school, and I hated more the 1 day of homework. So I decided I wanted to take a semester off and just work with my hands. I was working for a builder at the time, doing like little odds and ends, called a punch guy, do repairs, maintenance, whatever on a home building site, new construction. So I took a couple months off of college and never went back. So my parents were kind of against that because they said, if you take time off, you'll probably never go back. And I said, okay, that's okay. Then at 18, I moved out of my parents' house and moved in with a friend of a friend from work, rented a bedroom from him.
And this whole time you're going to Lehigh Valley
Going to
Baptist
Lehigh
Church?
Valley, yep. So I was rebellious in my teen years. I wanted to do things my way and not God's way or my parents' way. And I didn't respect my parents, and we got in a lot of heated arguments and butted heads a lot. So
And Doug was the pastor?
Doug was the pastor, yep. I left home at 18. And
You weren't going to church, you would just kind of show up, or?
I was still going to church because my girlfriend at the time was at church. So I had to go to church and save face and act like I'm a good Christian guy, even though I was a rebellious and a rebel at heart. And so moved out, rented a room, worked full time, and then would do side jobs nights and weekends. So I had a salary, I don't know, $15 an hour I was making at the time, going back 20 years ago or so. But that was my fixed income. But I'm like, I want to do more than that. And especially if I'm renting a bedroom from some guy I don't even know, I'm not going to like just sit on the couch and watch TV. So I would work. After work, I'd work till 8 o'clock at night doing painting for people, installing fans, ceiling fans, lights, building a deck, whatever I could do, I would do, just to make extra money and not sit around. I'm not the kind of guy to just sit around and be bored.
So when you say you got rebellious, you didn't get into drinking or spending your money in foolish ways or anything like that?
No, I didn't get into that. I got into some wrong music, rock music and stuff like that, and just rebel at heart. Just wanted to do my own thing. My parents really wanted me to go to college. I don't want to go to college. My parents weren't thrilled about my relationship with my girlfriend at the time at 16, 17, 18, and I rebelled against that. So then I wind up getting engaged. So I was still trying to put on a face at church and coming to all my services and doing all that. But
yeah, and let me stop you for a second. The reason I brought up like what kind of rebellion you got into is because, it looks like your family, although you did go down that rebellious road for a couple years or whatever in your teen years, at least you still had a good foundation that you didn't do completely foolish things. Like you were still good with your money. You're still a hard worker. You had work ethic. I think I noticed that with a lot of kids that grow up in good homes. It's like even if they rebel or go wayward or, aren't as faithful, they're at least still going to, have a decent life and still have a chance to come back and not have all this baggage because of all these bad decisions. When you come from like a really bad home, it's like, I mean, bad decisions, you name it, and that person will probably get into it. So, I mean, thankfully, your parents obviously raised you right in that way.
Yeah, and God spared me from getting into that stuff, but for the grace of God, there go I, as some of the kids today go into wicked stuff. God spared me from that, from his mercy. So it's not like I was morally excellent or anything like that. I was a rebellious teen, but God spared me. So my wife and I, fiance, girlfriend at the time, we got engaged at 19, and then we got married at 20. And that's when I got saved. So we were engaged. I was still putting on the show, telling my girlfriend I'm saved, telling my girlfriend's parents that I'm saved, and my parents are whack and all this stuff, and I'm the right one. But it wasn't until I was 20 years old that I did a Bible study with a friend, Jonathan Perks, and he was older than me, and I looked up to him, and I realized, like, he's like, how can someone who calls himself a Christian have this bitterness in their life, have this anger towards authority, listen to the music you listen to, just have a rebel at heart? Like, these are not the fruits of the Spirit. And it was hard for me to admit that I was lost, because I didn't want to admit it to myself. Because I knew once I admitted to myself I was lost, then there's no hope. Like, I'm going to go to hell. Where if I just kept lying to myself and telling myself, everything's okay, you prayed a prayer, you're good, then I didn't have to think about it. So it took a while, it took months to do the Bible study and to just really think about it. And I read a book called Advice for Seekers by Charles Spurgeon. And I really hit home, like...
Did someone recommend that?
Yeah, Jonathan recommended it to me, because I'm not a reader. I don't like to read. But I don't have the attention span. I have major ADD, ADHD, which is a blessing in some ways. But, so I realized I wasn't saved. And I had so much pride I didn't want to tell anybody. So I had to tell my fiance at the time.
And you were never baptized, but you still were dating?
I was baptized twice at our church. I made false professions when I was 13. I made another one when I was like 16. I got baptized each time. So now I'm like, if I admit I'm lost, like, I've already been baptized twice, I've gone through all the motions, what are people going to think? And I had to come to, that's pride. That's pride in your life. Like, you don't want other people to think bad about you. I had to come to the realization of, who cares what people think? I got to care what God thinks. So I realized I'm not saved. And I said, I need to tell Jen, my fiance, that I'm not saved. And that would be a huge thing to admit. So the one night I was talking on the phone with her, and I said, hey, I don't think I'm saved. I've just seen things in my life. And she says, yeah, I've noticed that too. I've been praying for you. I'm like, what? Like, you knew I wasn't saved? Well, she's like, I had some doubts, So then it's like, well, I thought I was fooling everybody all this time, and really I wasn't. So people were praying for me. So it took a couple weeks of me being lost to admit to myself I was lost, to finally get saved. Because I didn't want to make a false profession. I didn't want to just pray a prayer to get out of hell. And I wanted to make sure it was real, truly realize, like, this is what I need to do, and not do it for any other reasons. And I knew, like, if I admitted to my fiance that I'm lost, she might break up with me. She might call the wedding off. Her parents might call the wedding off. Like, this could be a big thing. But I had to do that and trust God that, this is what he wanted me to do, to be honest. So finally, one night I was in my room and just praying for God to just show me, please show me what I need to do. How do I get saved? I don't want to make a false profession. I knew everything in my head, but not my heart. And then I just had this realization of, there's nothing I can do different to get saved. God already did it. Jesus did it. Jesus died on the cross. He paid for my sins. I just need to accept it and stop trying to work up repentance. Stop trying to have enough faith. Stop trying to turn from my sin. Just give up. So that's what I did. I gave up. I just cried out to God in my room. And Alone. Just cried out to God and said...
Was there any scripture that spoke to you?
I've known so many scriptures my whole life. There's so many things bouncing through my head. I don't want to say, like, I didn't read a new verse, because I know all the verses. I was in Awanas as a kid. I was in Sunday school learning verses, and I used to get awards for memorizing tons of scripture as a kid and getting through all the books faster than other people. It was just a realizing of it's done. There's nothing you can do. It's a free gift. Just accept it. Stop trying to earn your way. Stop trying to repent enough, be sorry enough, think of every sin to confess enough. Like, just give it up. So I did. I just cried out to God, I'm done. I accept. And I kind of had this, not that I'm into visions, but I kind of had this thought of like Christ on the cross saying like, I'm dying for you. I did everything for you. So ever since that day, like Christ saved me. He changed my life, changed my attitude towards my parents, changed my rebellious heart. I got rid of all my wrong music. I apologized to my family, apologized to my parents. I have a bunch of younger siblings. I told them, hey, don't do what I did. Don't be rebellious. Listen to your parents. And at first my parents didn't believe it. They're like, yeah, sure. Sure you got saved, like, are you just saying that to try to, make everyone think you're good? But over time they've seen, like, I've changed. I've truly changed. So my wife and I got married at 20. I was still 20, about to turn 21, and she had just turned 20.
And what year was this? Early 2000s?
Yeah, 20 years ago. So 2003, 2004.
Now, back in that day, did you have to have like all your ducks in a row, or was it kind of like the 70s where you get married and you don't really know what you're doing?
What ducks in a row?
Like, you have to have money, you have to have a savings account, you have to have a hospital.
So as I was living on my own at 18, I just
Emergency fund.
worked my butt off. I saved like $30,000 after I paid for my rent, my cell phone, my gas, my insurance, my food. Like, I paid everything on my own because I was living on my own, and I was still able to stack away like 35 grand, even though I was only making 30 grand at the time, paying taxes, but all that extra work I did. So
Interesting.
we bought
I think a lot of people have a hard time believing that, because it's just a 20-year-old saving up that much money. It's like, how do you possibly live on your own, pay your bills, and able to save that much? Like, anyways, I just think that a lot of people.
When I moved out at 18, I think I had $1,500 to my name in the bank, and during that time, my transmission went in my truck. That cost me $2,500. I had to buy an engagement ring for my wife, which I won't say how much that cost, and other things, which now I'm negative, right? But I was able to just work hard, save my money. Like, my friends would be like, hey, we're going out to Six Flags or Dorney Park, or you want to come out? We're going out to eat. I'm like, no, I'm working tonight.
I was just about to say, it has to be from all those extra activities that you're not engaging in. And I think probably having a girlfriend helped you not care about those things.
Yeah, so my life from the year and a half I was on my own was work every night after work, except for Wednesday. I'd go to church. And Saturday I would work. Friday night I was able to go to her house, or maybe it was Saturday night, one of those days. I work every day except for Saturday night. I go to her house. So Saturday morning I work till like 3 o'clock, and then I go to her house in the afternoon, and I see her at church Wednesday night. Other than that, I just worked. Because what else are you supposed to do? You're a young guy. You're going to sit around and watch TV, play video games? Like, that wasn't me. Like, to me, that seems ridiculous, useless, wasteful.
And how many siblings you have?
There's 8. I have 8 siblings.
And they're all the same way?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so it wasn't like influence of your family.
No, a lot of them still play video games. Which I'm not into. Hey, Pat, you want to come over and play video games? Like, no. You want to talk about real estate? I do that. But, so got married at 20, and my father-in-law at the time said, Matt, you need to find a place to live. I said, well, I want to buy a house. So a guy at my work, when I was 19.
Wait, I'm sorry, go back. So Jen, she grew up in the church.
She grew up in a church as well.
And I mean, was she homeschooled? Did she go to the?
She went the church
academy
school for a little bit, and then she was homeschooled as well.
Okay.
And she graduated early, and she went to like an 18-month medical school to be like a surgical assistant. So she did that, and so she worked the first year of our marriage, and then I was working. But anyway, back up. So like at 19, living with a guy, renting a room at work, my boss said, I told him we're going to get married. He goes, why don't you buy a house? I said, I don't have $100,000 to buy a house. He's like, you don't need $100,000. You can put $5,000 down and get a mortgage. I'm like, who's going to give me a mortgage? He's like, mortgage companies. So like no one explained to me like you can buy a house. So like that's when it dawned on me like I can do this. So I'm like I can save $5,000. I can buy a house. Start running the numbers, and he started helping me run the numbers, and I'm like, this is totally affordable and doable. But everyone my age was like, oh, I can't buy a house. I don't have money. So he kind of put me in a direction of, hey, go talk to mortgage companies. I started calling around. I got pre-approved. I called to get a mortgage, and they're like, you have no credit. I'm like, well, of course I have no credit. I don't have a credit card. I was kind of raised like the Dave Ramsey, don't get that, all that stuff. So I couldn't even get a credit card. I applied for a credit card and I got denied because I had no credit. So I had to do like a secure credit card where you put $500 in a bank and they give you a credit card for $500. And then I went and got a Walmart credit card, and I just spent half of the amount you're allowed. And so 1 year later, going from no credit, 1 year later I got approved for like a $100,000 mortgage in 1 year, just having 2 credit cards and being responsible for them. So I was like, I really want to buy a house. I don't want to rent. I just, for some reason, didn't want to rent. So we were looking. It was 2003, 2004. The market was going up. It's hard to find anything. We finally found a house 6 weeks before our wedding. And my father-in-law said, look, a month before the wedding, if you don't find something, you got to rent an apartment or you're not getting married. So pressure, right? So we found this house. It was in Emmaus, and it was a single-family home for $98,000, but it was a foreclosure. Had no water, no electric, no heat. Everything was shut off and winterized. And we looked at so many houses before that. My wife and my fiance at the time and I looked at so many houses. None of them were in good areas. We couldn't afford it. So this one, we walked in. It smelled like dog poop and cat pee and just disgusting. Super dated, paneling, nasty, smelly. But like, what are we gonna do? We got 6 weeks to get married. So
wow. So Jen was not picky.
Other people were like, dude, don't buy that house. That's a money pit. You're going to lose money. I'm like, I need a place to live. So we bought that house. We closed, and it took 4 weeks to close. And we closed 2 weeks before my wedding, right? So during that time, I had to get the water turned on. We turned the water on, leaks all over the ceiling. I turned the water off. I learned how to do plumbing in that house by fixing those pipes. Had to get the electric turned on, had to get the heat turned on, had to fix stuff before we closed. But anyway, we bought that house, and for 2 weeks after work, because I'm still working, obviously after work, full time, I'd work till like 2 o'clock in the morning on that house, painting, I said, we got to get the whole first floor painted, we got to get the kitchen livable, and we have to get 1 bathroom done. Then we can move in. So I just spent nights and weekends there for 2 weeks. I think I lost like 10 pounds in those 2 weeks just from working and not eating and getting it done. But we got it done. We got part of it done, got married, moved in there, and we lived on the first floor for a year. And then nights and weekends, as newlyweds, my wife would help me hang drywall upstairs. We drywall, we paint, we do all that stuff.
See, I guess that's the benefit of getting married when you're in your early 20s, is both of you have low expectations.
We were just so happy to be married and to be out on our own. She was like, hey, I'll live anywhere. Like, this is great. So we fixed that house up. And the crazy thing is, like, friends of mine were renting apartments at the time. The same friends that were like, hey, let's go to Six Flags. Let's go hang out. And I'm like, no, I want to like do something with my life. They were buying new cars. They were renting apartments for $800 a month. My first house I bought, my mortgage was $600 a month. Mortgage, tax, insurance, everything. And my mortgage was less than their rent.
Right.
So like, yeah, delay gratification for a couple of years, work hard. And then I was kind of set where they were not. They were always behind the 8 ball. Then their new car that they bought was getting old. Their apartment rent's going up or they're moving out. So that buying a house at 20 years old and working hard really helped us out in life. So I encourage that to everyone, even guys that work for me. Any young guy that works for me today, I say, hey, you got to get a house as soon as you can. Buy a house. Don't buy a brand new house. Buy one you can fix up, get some equity in. So we bought our first house, and the first year after we got married, we were hanging drywall together. My wife, great trooper, she'd help me hang drywall. and spackle and paint and carpet.
As she was pregnant.
No, she wasn't pregnant at the time. But yeah, so we fixed the house up together. It took us a year, and then we eventually had the whole house to live in instead of just the first floor. So, I mean, and I think that's the thing a lot of people these days don't want to do is sacrifice, right? They want to get married and move into a brand new apartment or a brand new house, and like, oh, it's old, it's dated, it's dirty. We were like, hey, we're just happy to have a house of our own. We're happy to be married and be our own family.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing about being young is like you're super flexible.
Yeah.
As a missionary and going forward to be a missionary, it's a high priority to be flexible. It's like one of the main things that I have to make sure that I have. So whoever my wife is in the future has to be flexible. But yeah, that's nice to.
Yeah, so all of our friends were, buying new cars and renting apartments, and our first house, our mortgage was like $600, so it was less than somebody renting. And then after we got the house all done, a couple years later, someone told me, Matt, you should get a home equity line of credit. And I said, what's that? And they said, that's where you basically have a loan you can tap into from your equity in your house. So I did that, applied for that, and got a $100,000 line of credit from all the equity I had in the house from working on it, and the market was just going up. So great time to lock in. Didn't know why I need it, but just thought it'd be good to have. So, fast forward a year or two, my wife's pregnant with our second daughter, and I was working for a construction company at the time.
Now, did you lose your job before the second house came in? Or was the second house?
Yes. So I was working for a builder, and it was 2008, and I got called in to the office one day, and I was like, hey, Matt, we're shutting down your job site. We're laying you off. We're laying your worker, your helper off. We're laying off the salesman. We're just shutting the job down. So give me your keys, give me your phone, you're done. Like no warning, no nothing. So I went home that night and didn't have a job. And my wife was pregnant. She's a stay-at-home mom. We had a 2-year-old at the time and a baby on the way, and I had no income. So I didn't tell her right away. We ate dinner, and we went for a walk after dinner, and I remember telling her, hey, honey, I lost my job today. She was like, what? What do you mean? I said, they laid me off. They're closing down. Sales are slow. And she's like, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know, but we'll figure something out. Like I wasn't like fretting and worried and scared. I just trusted God, and I'm just the kind of person to say, I'll figure it out. I don't need to worry about it. So then I just started doing odds and end jobs here and there for people. I think I collected unemployment for 2 weeks. And then after that, I couldn't sit around. So then that kind of started my construction remodeling business. Self-employed, doing bathrooms and kitchens and stuff. And that's what started that. But we talked about then.
But you got your first job doing that with a basement?
So yeah, I got someone called me that I had done work for when I was single. And they said, hey, are you still working for the builder? I said, yeah. And they're like, hey, we need this work done. Can you do it nights and weekends? I said, I can do it during the day because I lost my job. And then I was there working. I went to Home Depot, and in Home Depot getting some material, I bumped into a guy who was a realtor who bought a house in the development that I worked for. And he goes, hey, you're Matt from such and such builder. And I said, well, I'm not there anymore. They laid me off. He goes, really? What are you doing? I said, I'm doing whatever I can. And he says, well, I got a rental property that I could use help on. Do you want to work for me? I said, sure. So I started working for that guy. He would buy property, and he hired me to fix it up, and then he would rent it out. And he started buying a couple of them. So I started doing work for him. I hired my first employee, John, about 15 years ago. He was 18, and he came working for me.
And you were 24, 25?
Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, it was 2008. So I was like 25, 26, and I hired him. He was 18. We started doing jobs together. And
how old are you now?
41. So we started doing work for this guy. But anyway, before I hired him, I had someone came up to me and said, hey, I got this house I'm looking to buy. It had a fire. Would you be interested in looking at it and give me some advice on what it would take to fix up? I went and looked at it, and it needed a lot of work. The fireman had busted the windows out, cut a hole in the roof, let the smoke out. The whole house was black with soot. And long story short, the guy couldn't buy the house because he couldn't get a mortgage for it. Well, I had this line of credit for $100,000. So I said, hey, do you mind if I buy it? He says, no, go ahead. So I wrote a check for $68,000 for my line of credit at like 25 years old at the time. bought it, went in there myself because I didn't have a job. I went there every day and I did all the work myself. New painting, new flooring, new kitchen, roof, windows, whatever. Got the whole house done, and my plan was to rent it. So I rented it to Lehigh University students because it's right near Lehigh. And when then I did a refinance when I was done, got a mortgage on it. I got all my money back, right? So I paid $68,000, and I think I put like $30,000 in. So I made it for $98,000, and then it was worth like $130. So I got a loan for like $110. So I said, wait a minute, I just got all my money back plus 10 grand in my pocket, which was basically my labor, and I have a mortgage on it. So I paid back my line of credit. That's back down to zero. 10 grand in my pocket. I think my mortgage was $900 a month. Mortgage, tax, insurance, $900 a month. I rented it for $2,000 a month. I was like, holy cow, $1,100 a month profit on one house. I said, I'm hooked. I need more houses. So then I just had that on the side and kept doing construction work. We're doing work for this guy I told you who was an investor, and he'd buy a house, we'd fix it up, and then he'd rent it. So I could see, it's public knowledge. I see, okay, he bought this on Zillow. Zillow says he paid $100,000. He paid me $40,000 to renovate it, and now it's worth $180,000, $200,000. And then I know he refinanced it. He got a money loan for it, and he's renting it out. And I could see, he's renting it for $1,600 a month. Well, I do the math on the loan, on this and that, tax, insurance. He's making money every month, and he got his money back. I'm like, this is genius. Like, I should do this. So then I bought. I take it back. I wanted to buy another house. I wanted to move because I was living on a main street, and like off-street parking was a pain. I had to park in the front of the house, carry all my tools in the house, and I'm like, I need to buy another house. But actually, I'm going too far ahead. I need to back up. So we got cut off when we were talking. I can't remember what we talked about, what we didn't talk about.
From what I remember, you were left off at the house that was.
So we fixed that firehouse up. But here's something too to go back to. When I was 2004, 2005, somewhere around there, something happened at our church. And there were some disgruntled people. They weren't happy. And they left the church.
And this is right when you got married?
This was a couple years after I got married, maybe 2 years after I got married. My wife was either pregnant with our second or had just had the second. I think she just had the second. So I lose my job, right? I had a nice cushy, I shouldn't say nice cushy, but for my age, I had a decent job, salary. Wasn't hourly salary. I knew exactly how much money I was getting every month. We lived on a budget. I lose my job, and I'm kind of like, what am I going to do? Doing some work here and there. A lot of stuff happened at church. People left the church, and I had a lot of pressure to leave. A lot of people were telling me, Matt, you need to come on our side. We're not happy. We're leaving. You should come with us. And here's why we're right, and why the church is wrong. And I'm young, married. I have a wife and a daughter, and one on the way to think about. My choices are going to affect my family if I leave and go to another church. And I'm like, I had to pray a lot and search, like, what is right? What is God's will for my life? I made the choice to stay. And I thought, this is what God wants me to do. This is, I believe the church is right, and those who were upset and were leaving were wrong, right? And time has told that was the right choice to make. So we have at our church Faith Promise. I think it's in February every month. Every year it's in February, where we say, I promise to give this much money to missions. And before, on the salary, I had a budget. Okay, this is what I make. This is what I tithe. This is what our food and groceries cost. This is how much I can give to Faith Promise. And I remember that first year, I think I got laid off in like September, October. Now, a couple months later, February comes around, and the church is talking about put in your commitments for Faith Promise. So at first I'm like, well, I can't commit to give. I don't know how much I'm going to make. I might make 20 grand this year. How am I going to commit to give money to give the church? And I remember thinking, this is called faith promise. You have to have faith. So I said, you know what? I'm going to commit to give the same amount I gave last year, even though I don't have a salary. I don't have guaranteed income. And that's going to be faith. And I thought, well, is that faith? Why don't I give like $10 more? Just to push myself and say, I'm not even going to just say that I'm giving the same amount. I'm going to say that God's going to take care of me even better. So I did. And that first year, I don't know if I made more money than I made at the business before, at the company before, but I had enough money to give the faith promise. And I never went back. Every year I increased my faith promise, and every year God takes care of me. So just the lesson on that is, it's so easy to make excuses of why we can't do things, why we can't give, why we shouldn't give, why God will understand, but God wants you to trust him, not just to do that. So that year when a lot of stuff happened at church, I had a lot of people not happy with me for not going with them and doing their thing, jumping on the bandwagon. I lose my job, just a lot of stuff. But God used all that to kind of make me the man I am, right? Because then that made me dependent on him. That made me not dependent on others, and never look back. And that was kind of like the start of like my life had turned from an employee and a young guy to now entrepreneur, trusting God. And I just see my path of life going like this, and then like that's the point where it just shot up.
And that's after you're married. So it wasn't necessarily like having a kid or even getting married or even getting saved. It was like later on some challenges that made you kind of step up to the plate and say, I'm going to be a spiritual
Correct.
man of
like
God.
4 or 5 years into marriage where I had to decide, okay, now it's my turn to be a spiritual leader in my family and a physical leader and to take care of my family, provider. So, I mean, I look back on that time, there was a lot of hard decisions to make. And as a young guy, early 20s, I never really had to make hard decisions.
Yeah.
And that's where it was like, hey, you have to decide. And whatever you decide, you're going to offend people on both sides. And that's tough because usually it's like, oh, I'll just do the decision that makes people happy. This was like either way, you're going to offend someone. So it's like, well, what does God want me to do? So that was an important part.
So it seemed like because you grew up in a Christian home and you were kind of had that foundation of that family with the Christian faith, that the moment that was shaken up, that's when you got shaken up personally, which was a good thing for you. Because Absolutely. If everything stayed the same, you probably would have never been challenged in that way.
Yeah. If I didn't lose my job, I probably would have still been at the same company, got a 1% raise a year, still living in the same house, and being dependent on a company and a business to provide for me. And the same at church. I probably wouldn't have been the man I am today if I wasn't forced to make tough decisions that young. So then fast forward, we lived in our house for 7-8 years. We had two girls, and we just wanted to move. We wanted a little more room. We're in town, didn't have any off-street parking. At this point now I had, I think, 2 or 3 guys working for me, employees. And I found a little house, a little ranch house in the country with 2 acres. And I bought that put my line of credit, which I still had, used that as a down payment, and bought that. And then we tore the house down completely. Like nights and weekends, me and my guys, looking back, we should have hired equipment, come in and just tear it down. But we did it by hand, piece by piece. A bunch of teenagers and stuff helping.
Oh, I've seen pictures of that. You got to show me the pictures.
Yeah. So we tore the house down, left the foundation, and built a 2-story on its foundation. I subbed out the framing and the mechanicals, the electric, or the framing and HVAC, and then me and my guys did everything.
Okay, so is where you at with framing as far as the other things like plumbing and electrics?
So yeah, I had guys come in to frame it who I knew from the builders, but then we did the plumbing, we did the electric.
So are you not as comfortable with the framing, or is that
I just
something you
wanted
can
to get
do?
it up. It's a big job, and I wanted to. We could have done it, but it would have taken us a month, and these guys did it in like 5 days.
Okay,
They just
yeah.
come in and blow it out.
Yeah.
We built a second house. We wanted to move, and we're working on that. And like I was saying before, we built that ourselves. Some people say they built a house. They meant they hired a builder. Like we built our house.
And this was the first time you built a house from the ground up?
Pretty much. I mean, well, I worked for a builder before, so we built ground up for other people, other people's money, other people's subs, other people's contacts. It's the first time I'm like doing it myself, where I had to figure everything out.
And you're taking all the risk?
I'm taking all the risks. I'm getting the loans. I'm hiring guys, but basically doing it myself. So once again, nights and weekends, I work till 2:00 in the morning. I go to work my regular job as a contractor doing bathrooms and kitchens for other people to make money to pay my bills. And then me and one or two of my guys would go at 5:30. We work 7 to 5 for our job, and we go 5:30 to like 2 in the morning, and we would do trim, tile, hardwood, plumbing, whatever. And then every Saturday we do the same thing, and we work like 6 months straight. My poor wife, she's so understanding and encouraging and supportive that like, she basically didn't see me for 6 months because I would leave 6:30 in the morning. I get home at 2:30 at night. She would come and bring me dinner at like 5:00 to the new house. She'd bring me dinner. She'd bring the girls. I'd see my 2 daughters. They'd run around or play chalk in the basement while I was working upstairs. We talk for 15 minutes, and then I get back to work. And that's the thing too. We go back to like sacrifice. Nobody wants to sacrifice for something, right?
Yeah.
My wife and I sacrificed a lot to have what we have, to be where we are. And 6 months, got the house done, moved into there, and then I kept my first house and I rented it out instead of selling it. So then I had 2 rentals. I had my house that was a fire I bought, fixed up. My first house in Emmaus, I kept that. I still have it today. And we kept that as a rental, and then we lived up in a new house. And everything was good. I was working, 10, 12 hours a day for my renovation company. Had hired probably 4 or 5 guys then. And then I was up late doing paperwork, estimates, invoices. Same thing, right? People want to have their own business, but they want to work 40 hours a week. And they want to do their invoices and estimates during the day in their cozy office. Like, that's not how you get things done. You got to work your butt off during the day, and you got to do the paperwork and stuff after hours at night. Once again, my wife was very patient, supportive. I get home from work, spend time with the kids. My wife, they'd go to bed, 9, 10 o'clock. I'd stay up till about midnight doing paperwork, estimates. Very rarely did I go to bed with my family. I did that for years. But then grew the company a little bit, hired more guys, hired more stuff. But anyway, the construction was kind of like just a job. Like when people say they have their own business, they don't have their own business. They're self-employed. Like a business is something you can sell, you can walk away from for 6 months of vacation, and it runs itself. But self-employed, you're just working for yourself, and you actually don't. People say they want to go in business for themselves because they don't want to have a boss. You have multiple bosses. Every customer you work for is a boss. Your last customer is a boss because they have maintenance stuff. Your new customer is a boss because you have to get the contract and the deposit and stuff. So it's not all it's cracked up to be. But we start buying vacant houses and fixing them up. So I go back to that one guy that we did work for. He'd buy houses. We'd fix them up for him. He'd rent them. I'm like, I got to do this myself. Like, look at these numbers. They make sense. So I would try to buy 1 or 2 houses a year with my line of credit, and we'd fix them up when we got slow, and then we would refinance them and move on to the next. So over a couple of years, I did that, got about 30 homes. My wife and I on our own, and the one guy who worked for me, the first guy I hired, he started doing it too. He saw what I was doing. He's like, hey, I'm going to do this too. So he started buying houses on his own, fixing them up, renting them out. I was encouraging all my guys, go buy a house, fix it up, rent it out, refinance it. Now the key word is the BRRRR strategy. Buy, renovate, refinance, rent, repeat. Like, we were doing that way before BiggerPockets coined that phrase. And they've been doing it since the beginning of time, I'm sure, with chariots. They buy chariots and fix them up, rent them out. They buy, tents and fix them up. But anyway, so now fast forward, my first employee, John, has become my business partner. And we've grown together. We have a lot of the same goals and work ethic and such. And now we have over, 100 something units.
Did you guys have to like write a contract out to split the business?
We started LLCs, which we were 50-50 ownership of, and we bought stuff in the LLCs. We have operating agreements and stuff in there. But, just going back from starting, when I lost my job and was kind of pushed into entrepreneurship to now, 15 years later, we have a property management company. We have lots and lots of real estate. We're always buying. We're sitting in one right now that we just bought.
Yeah, this is one of
fixed up.
yours. And how long did it take to fix this one up?
This one maybe, 6-8 months.
And that's working on it like every day type thing?
That's having our guys work on it. So like I physically don't, swing a hammer or anything. I'm out there looking for deals, negotiating deals, talking to banks, talking to lenders, all that stuff.
House like this, how much did you buy it for? Was this a foreclosure?
This one was not a foreclosure. This one I think we bought for maybe 90 grand.
Okay. Wow, that's super low.
How much did we put into it? I don't know. We probably put 100 grand into it, easy. I mean, we did everything, and then
Including the labor.
yeah, and I think it just we're in the process of doing a refi. Actually, next week we're closed on it. I think it came in at like 280 value, appraisal value.
Interesting.
And once again, going back to delayed gratification and not having everything at once. When my partner and I started buying real estate together, we didn't touch any of the profits. Any of the money it made, we rolled it right back into the LLC, used that money to buy more properties. We lived very frugal, very mindful of our expenses. And, I know guys that they flipped a house, made 30 grand, went out and bought a truck. Like, just blew their money. Like, we made some money, we rolled it back in, bought more real estate. We never sold, well, we sold too, but other than that, we just keep rolling in. And it wasn't until like 4 or 5 years of doing this that we said, okay, now we can start taking some of the profits to then work less in the construction company, and that will help compensate for cutting back the hours. And now we're at the point where we're like, hey, we're living off of our real estate cash flow, that we don't need the construction renovation. That's kind of more of a distraction. So we're kind of, going into that. The one thing that people, you hear the phrase, and it's so true, is you overestimate what you can do in a year and you underestimate what you can accomplish in 10 years. So I remember years ago going to a real estate event, and they were like, hey, draw out, this is maybe 2018, so 6 years ago, draw out your perfect day. What do you want your net worth to be? What do you want your portfolio to look like? What do you want your day to look like? And I just, wrote all this stuff of what I dreamed one day would be like. That was 6 years ago. And I've far surpassed what I thought was my dream day back then. And it's only been 6 years. But if you say, and then he said, in 1 year, write what your goal is. And I had this high, lofty goal of I'm going to do this or do that. I didn't get it. But if you have your one goal, you want to be here in 1 year and here in 10 years. 1 year you might be here, but 10 years you might be up here. So just work hard.
Yeah, I do want to say though that construction and working in the industry that you're in is one of the main ways to make large amounts of cash, and having those skills of remodeling houses and renting homes and stuff like that. That's like one of the major ways that people make money. So like somebody working at Wawa, hard work
Sure.
to them, it's just, hopefully I get some overtime. Sure. That's not really going to do much of a difference,
Absolutely.
make much of a difference. But like I see people who have skills, who have developed skills since they were teens, and especially in construction, and they were able to make some real money. So, I think that people should always be working on some skills on the side and educating themselves, and whatever they're doing for a job, if they're only making it paycheck to paycheck, if they didn't go to college for some big career or something, that they should always be working on something on the side. They can't get lazy. If they do, then they're always going to stay where they're at. And that's where I feel making those dreams and seeing them as a possibility, and that they actually come to light, is the fact that they're doing something that can make that happen. They're not relying on some regular job to just, oh, maybe I'll get a bonus this year, maybe I'll get a management position. I think it's much easier for business owners to dream big and have these big goals. I'm not saying other people can't, but I'm gonna make some big leaps and bounds versus somebody who just works at a job. Because I did that for a long time. I worked at jobs, couldn't ever get a job where I'm actually learning skills. It was like, working at a grocery store or working at a gas station, through my early 20s or, my late teens. And, these types of jobs, there's no real big future in it. Yeah. And it's nothing where I'm ever going to be able to get ahead. So it's like super frustrating, especially when I was young, to see other people get all these opportunities, learn these skills, and then not even realize that other people don't have that opportunity. And so I think if anybody's watching and they're in that position, I don't think it's ever too late to start to teach themselves, educate themselves on their free time. Sure. But it's going to be hard. And even as a business owner and somebody who had the skills to make, chunks of money, like what I mean by that is, like, you could get a contract for like $30,000 or $50,000, fix up my bathroom and my kitchen. That's money that other people just don't even know exist. And, to them, it's like, oh, I got an extra $100 at work, or I did a side job for $100, and that's a lot to them.
Yeah, but a $30,000 bathroom doesn't go in my pocket. Right, I have all these expenses and labor and all this stuff. So if a $30,000 bathroom might make $1,000, it's not that lucrative, right? And like you were saying, work hard, yes, but if you're the best ditch digger and you work the hardest, you're still a ditch digger, right? So you got to focus on, where do I work hard, and is also profitable. I didn't go to college. I mean, I went to college my senior year, but it was like nothing. So I didn't get a degree. And I hear people say, well, that guy, he's a lawyer. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a lawyer. I'm never going to make good money. That's bogus, right? Stop limiting yourself to that. I didn't go to school. I didn't learn construction. I learned it on the job. I learned it by messing up. And I learned soldering by doing it wrong and it leaking. I had to do it 3 or 4 times. So, just stick with it. I guess I'm self-taught. I know a lot about real estate, a lot about refinancing, a lot about structuring deals, negotiating, owner financing, seller financing, all that stuff. That's all from watching YouTube videos, listening to podcasts, reading books, which I don't read books. I listen to audiobooks because
Thanks for admitting that.
Attention. I don't have the attention span to read, but I listen to a lot of audiobooks. And in this day and age, everything is free out there. There's so much free information.
Oh, it's the day of knowledge for sure. There's no excuses anymore.
There's no excuse to say, I didn't go to school for this, I didn't go to school for that.
Or I grew up in this home, yeah.
Yeah, I grew up, 9 kids in my family. I had to pay my own way for college, left house with $1,500 in my name, and I've grown it to what I've grown today. And I hate to hear people have excuses of, well, I was never born rich, or I'll never be rich. It's like, you know what? Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. If you say you can't, you're right. You can.
Yeah.
If you say you can, you can. And I heard a guy on a podcast the other day say, I know a lot of broke people who have an awful lot of free time nights and weekends.
Exactly.
And he's like, that's why they're broke.
Yeah.
If you're broke, go get a second job. Go work nights and weekends. Go work in the morning and paper route.
Get rid of Netflix. Get rid of YouTube.
Cut out video games. Cut out movies. Cut out all that stuff. You got to be disciplined.
Yeah.
That was another thing. When I was doing my business, staying up nights and weekends, working, paperwork and all that stuff, I was eating unhealthy. I'd eat snacks. I gained a lot of weight.
Oh yeah, you got big. How? What was your biggest? How much did you weigh?
I think I was like 240, 220, 230, something like that.
Wow.
And I realized, wow, I'm getting fat. I need to cut out. So I just decided to stop. Exercise, cut out sugar, cut out sweets, start eating salads, and I lost 60 pounds in 6 months just by working my butt off. And I haven't gained it back, and that was 6 years ago. So successful people are disciplined in all areas of their life, right? If you're disciplined in your health, in your weight, in your finances, you have to say no to yourself. You have to tell yourself who's in control. Example, just a couple months ago, I decided, I love sugar. I love sweet tea. I love sugar in my coffee. I love donuts. I love candy. My wife's always getting on me for eating all that stuff. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go no sugar, like sugar-free for 30 days. First I said a week, then did 30 days, then did 90 days. No sugar, no maple syrup, no honey, no sweetener, no joy, no flavor. Just because I wanted to tell myself I can and to discipline myself. There's nothing wrong with having sugar, but to me, it was like I loved it, so I wanted to say, you know what? I'm just going to tell myself no. Yeah. It's just good to tell yourself no and to be in control and not let your body, your emotions, your feelings, your thoughts control you.
Yeah. And the other thing is that people need to take out of their mind, this is my opinion, take out of their mind fast, easy money. Mm-hmm. Don't think I'm going to get rich quick. Every time it's going to lose. And then you're going to get discouraged. You're going to put in your head this idea that it's possible, and you're going to keep chasing it until it happens.
Every new crypto meme coin, just
crypto is actually a good example of that. Yeah. But there's so many courses out there. There's these MLMs. I mean, I have a horror story of an MLM. I never got into it because that would not be something that I would be foolish enough to do. But I know of people who did and wasted all this money and time and ruined relationships over it. And, this just make the sacrifices, be honest, do hard work, and eventually it'll grow. And the best investment is in yourself. So learning skills, just keep reinvesting in yourself.
Exactly. So it's the whole get rich quick thing, right? Everyone's looking for the next meme coin to buy that's going to pump 100x. People are looking at how to just be a wholesaler and just
1,000x, but
1,000x. Wholesale, flip houses, make 5-10 grand here and there by doing nothing. And it's like slow and steady wins the race. Easy come, easy go. I know guys that, years ago I went to a real estate conference, 2018, and they were all like, go big or go home. You got to buy a 100-unit complex and for $10 million, and you got to syndicate and invest other people's money and do all this stuff. And I'm just like, nope, we're just going to keep going. One house here, one house there, a couple apartments here, slow and steady. And a lot of those guys went belly up, bankrupt, lost it all. The market changed, rates went up, insurance went up, and they're gone, flash in the pan.
Wow. And that's just like the faith that we should have is not quick, easy, see results right away. Like I think of going to church. Like a lot of people forsake church after they don't get a girlfriend, or after their marriage isn't perfect, or their job doesn't line up, or things are tough for the first 5 years. And it's like, oh man, why am I going to church? This is another thing adding to my plate. And they aren't willing to make that sacrifice. But slow and steady is the same thing with faith. It's like, God isn't in the business of this fast results right away. We see that with Jesus Christ in the New Testament, but that wasn't supposed to be so that you would say, oh, this is how it's always going to be. That was just so that you would see that he was the Messiah. So he was going around doing miracles. But those people still had to put the work in to be faithful to see the long-term results. Just because you were blind and you're not blind anymore, you still have all the other problems in your life that you have to work towards. And so that's the same thing in faith. It's like slow and steady. If we as believers recognize that I'm going to put in the work, I'm going to not worry about the results or the rewards. I'm just going to do what God wants me to do, what he says that I should do by faith. God's going to honor that. And it might take a while. Abraham waited until he was 100 years and he saw results for this thing that he was promised. And so, even Moses, Moses had to wait a long time. And so there's so many examples in the Bible of people who are just slow and steady. I think somebody who has the best example, actually the best testimony in the Bible, one of the persons who has the best testimony is, I'm going to say, Daniel. Sure. And Daniel, if you look at his life, it's just a slow and steady. I'm sticking with it.
Be faithful, be patient.
Be faithful, be patient. Just sticking with what he was taught when he was younger. And
make sure you're on the right path. If you're on the right path, just be patient and keep growing and building. If you're on the wrong path, you're not going to get anywhere. So you don't want to be complacent. You want to be thankful and have gratitude for everything you have. And you want to be satisfied with what God has given you, but you don't want to be complacent, right? So there's a fine line between contentment and always just striving to do better. You don't want to be like, oh, I always need. It's not about having more and more. It's about doing more and being more than you can be and growing yourself, pushing yourself. The other thing is Be prepared. So I love the definition of luck. I hear a lot of people say, oh, you're lucky. Oh, you're so lucky. You have this, you have that. And they don't see the years of working hard and the sacrifice and all that. The definition for luck is preparation meets opportunity,
Yeah.
right? So an opportunity could come.
Which is luck, but it's still there. But
It's luck,
you
but
made yourself.
you were prepared, right?
Yeah.
So if an opportunity comes for someone to say, hey, I got this $30,000 car you can have for $5,000, but I need it right now. If you had the $5,000, you were prepared. You can have it. If I don't have it with me, I didn't have it. You were lucky. No, you were prepared. The opportunity came, but you were prepared, so you were able to be the lucky one, to say. But, my wife has put up with so much over the years. She's helped me so much in the business and with raising our kids and all that stuff. And people say, oh, wow, she's lucky. She gets to stay home and homeschool the kids and have a beautiful house and all that stuff. No, she's worked hard over the years, and she's been prepared, and we've worked hard and got it. So when people say, oh, you're lucky, or, yes, when people say you're lucky, I say I'm very blessed. Because I am blessed. God's given me everything he's given me, and it's not me pull myself up by my bootstraps. God has definitely 100% blessed me. But you have to be prepared, you have to work hard, and you have to sacrifice to have a better future. It seems like nobody wants to do that these days.
One of the hard things, I think, for people is seeing so many other people. And now that we have social media, it's like, you can have 1 million people out there and 100 of them are doing well out of the million.
Yeah.
But those 100 are on the YouTube platform, or, they're on the social media platforms, and it looks like so many people. It's like if you were to scroll through 100 people that are like, I have $1 million, I have $1 million, I'm doing really well. It's like, wow, that's a lot of people. It's like, okay, that's the highlights.
Or the gurus that are sitting there on their YouTube and they have a Ferrari in the background and they're saying like, hey, get my course for $299 a month and I'll teach you how to trade crypto or how to buy real estate.
And I'm thinking, if you're like so rich, why do you need
exactly
$299?
If you're like this multimillionaire, why are you worried about my $300?
Or some of them are like $50.
Yeah,
I'm
like,
this
it's
is
like
sketchy.
no, they're making their money on preying on people who they're fake. They don't have the money. They're renting a car. They're at their buddy's house, filming in front of their house. And I like this saying: those who can do, and those who can't teach. Right. So if you can do it, you just go out and do it. But if you try and you can't do it, you're like, oh, I can't really do it. I know, I'll teach other people to do it. But it's like, no, just go do it. So the YouTube guy who's saying, I will teach you how to do this and that, he probably doesn't know what he's doing. Because if he knew what he was doing, if he was making millions trading stocks, he wouldn't be sitting there filming for an hour to get people to give him $100. He would just be doing it and making a killing and going on vacation. So for me, I don't look for people who are out there bragging, oh, sign up for my course. I look for people who are doing it,
yeah,
and are quiet,
right?
And are, I have a friend who's worth over $100 million. Great guy, down to earth. He's not selling courses. He's out there doing what he enjoys doing. He's happy to help people if you ask, and it's the people that you don't. He's not driving a flashy car, a fancy car. He just enjoys what he does. And he's been successful at it.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. Actually, even with you, I had to ask you multiple times to come and do this interview. I mean, if I ever want to learn from you, I have to really schedule that in and kind of twist your arm. But seriously, it's not like you're going around hey guys, everyone come to me. I got it all figured out. It's and that's something that I think is also important. I think of Jacob with the angel in Genesis, where he wrestles with the angel to get a blessing. And, I'm not saying that, I'm not going to go into the details of how that should look in our lives, but I do want to say that we should get to the point where we're seeking wisdom so much. And if we're doing it with God and the Bible, it's going to bleed in every other area of our life. And it's you have to be able to read between the lines. You're not looking just for the quick and easy answer. You want the real thing. You want the meat. And somebody who is developing that sensitivity to finding the meat is going to know when they get it and when they're not. And so if I'm getting that meat in preaching, I'm going to say, okay, I need to stay here because this doesn't make me feel good. I think of if I go to a church and it's flowery and it makes me feel good and I take a few nuggets from it and that's it. I'm kind of anytime you open the Bible, you're going to get good stuff. So it's not challenging enough. I want something that's really going to convict me. I want some real wisdom that I can really that I could really apply in my life that's going to make a big difference. And when I'm seeking for God to work in my life, I'm getting to the point where I'm begging God. I have to get so serious with God that I'm like, God, I need you to speak to me in this area. I need you to tell me what to do. I need you to give me direction. And we know the ways that God does that. He does that through our spiritual leaders. He does that through spiritual friends. He does that through the Word of God, especially reading our Bible and devotions and our personal walk with Him and being sure that we have no sin in our life. But when we're seeking for wisdom in that way, we're also going to be looking in the carnal world, and the Bible mentions that, make friendship with mammon.
Sure.
And the thing is that, hey, I need help in this area. Who knows?
Yep.
And I need to humble myself and say, can I sit down with you? Can I talk to you? Can you help me in this area? And those are usually the type of people that are actually giving the right type of knowledge and not on the internet trying to make a big name.
Exactly. And that's how, everything I know, I learned from someone else. I didn't make anything up. I didn't invent things myself. I've learned from other people. You can buy a house. You just go out and you need a down payment. There's programs you can put 2% down. That taught me, oh, wow, I can buy a house. Now I bought 80 different properties. It's you got to find mentors. If you want a good marriage, find older people who've been married, who have a good marriage, and be friends with them. You want to raise good kids? Find people who have had good kids that are grown and be friends with them. You want to get into anything? Find someone who's done it. Don't find the gurus. You could buy books if they're good people, but a lot of times people are writing books and selling courses just to make money. Go find someone who's doing it, not someone who says they're doing it.
And I think the real challenge is when you come from like such a desperate background, like poor background, I think you're more prone to making impulsive decisions or decisions that are quick and easy or just fast results. It's like you're more prone to that. At least I found that for myself, where I'm like, man, I want to do that. I want to do that. And like being around people that are slow and steady has really helped me to learn from them over time. Hey, they've had a huge impact, or their life is so stable because of the slow and steady. Yep. And when I go to them for counsel and I ask them, and I watch how they buy things and I watch how they spend their money and make money and their work ethic, but then I also ask them when I'm about to make a big decision. Like there's been multiple times since I've gotten here where I wanted to make this decision or make this move. And so I've counseled with other men and got their feedback. And most of the time it's opposite to what I'm thinking. But I know that God put those type of people in my life so that I would be more balanced in that way, because I'm being poor, but then also having the ambition that I have, just the way that I'm wired. I'm just a go-getter. It's like, and I just want to go get it done. Like I'm not one of those type of people that want to like figure out the best way to do it and take my time and make sure I'm tactful. It's like, no, I'm just going to go do it. And it's just like that can really cause a lot of damage. And I think it's more risky. When you come from a poor background, you're willing to take the risks.
Sure.
Because you don't have anything. And you never did. And so even if you got $1 million, you're willing to risk it because, hey, I'm going to go back to zero. I was already there.
You never had before.
So you're willing to take these risks, but it's not wise. And you need to take the slow and steady.
Yeah. You need to find mentors in life, you need to, in all areas of life. And like you were saying about it's about finding people in the world who are smart in certain areas. If you want to have good health, find a mentor who's healthy and he can tell you how he got there. And if you want to have wealth in a certain area, find someone that did it, and obviously find spiritual leaders in the church, men that you look up to that can tell you how to be a good father, good husband, godly Christian. Reach out to the pastor. He's a great guy and he can encourage you how to walk with the Lord, how to raise your kids. Mentors. So many people these days are looking for advisors. Like a financial advisor, the difference between an advisor and a mentor is an advisor would tell you what they would do if they were in your shoes, and a mentor tells you what they did do when they were in your shoes, right? So I don't want to go to a financial advisor. Some young guy calls me, hey, I just got my financial advisor certificate. I'm 22 years old. Let me tell you how to invest your money. Like, dude, you're broke. I don't want to take advice from you. But someone who has the $100 million net worth guy, hey, what did you do when you were in my shoes? How can you advise me? How can you mentor me? And so many people are looking for the gurus that never did it but are trying to tell you what they would do. and that's in all areas of life. Find good mentors that can bring you up and help you out.
Obviously, people go through seasons in life, and sometimes they are able to do this, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes they can be very involved, and sometimes they can't. But over time, you maintain going to church and having your family go and being involved. What has helped you to stay faithful in the seasons of life?
I think it's very important to go to church. And I think one of the reasons is my kids. I want to be a good example to them. If my wife and I didn't have any kids, it'd be easy to be like, oh, I have a tummy ache today. I think we're going to stay home from church. But it's like, what are you teaching your kids? You're telling them it's okay to forsake the assembly. And I don't want my kids, when they get older, to say, oh, it's okay to work on Sunday because, my boss will pay me more. And then they just go downhill quick if they forsake the assembly. And that was one of the things as an entrepreneur, I could easily work Wednesday nights and do estimates and do appointments and stuff. But I said, no, I'm going to be at church on every Wednesday night. I'm going to be there on Sundays. And it bugs me when I see people who, okay, so if you have to work if you're a cop, if you're a doctor, if you're whatever, and you have to work sometimes on weekends or Sundays or Wednesdays because it's what you have to do. But when you're self-employed, you make your own rules, right? So people that are like, oh, I work Wednesday night. Dude, you have your own company. Set your own hours. Or I had to stay late at the office. No, you don't. Go in early on a Wednesday or go in early on a Thursday. Like, prioritize the house of God. That's important to me. And, if you prioritize the house of God, I think God will honor that.
Yeah.
You can make a couple more bucks, but you can easily lose money like that on something else that God can just, not that he's going to punish you, but he won't reward you as much.
Yeah. So what do you think the future holds for you? Like, let's say your kids are out of the house. Do you think that you will be more prone to saying, hey, let me kind of buy a vacation home? And
Well, that's going to be a long ways from now because my youngest is 5. So it's going to be at least 15 years until they're all out of the house. But I would hope that I don't. I'd hope I still prioritize the house of God. And if I were to get a vacation home somewhere, I would find a good church there and make sure that I'm in church.
Yeah. Now, if you were to look back, is there anything that you would change or tell your younger self? Something that you would say, do this differently?
That's a good question. I mean, I made so many mistakes in life. I think I would prioritize being more present at home. I was home when I was home, but when I was home, I was on my phone because I'm my own boss. I'm getting texts from customers, getting texts from tenants, getting texts from my employees, and I would try to just take the stupid phone, put it away, and spend time with my wife, spend time with my kids instead of spend time with them with the phone. And that's something I still struggle with today. I mean, we're so connected. I had an Apple Watch. I got rid of it because it was just like I put my phone away and then my watch is blowing up. And I'm trying to read a book to my daughter and my watch is blowing up. So just take out distractions. Try to be, block out time. When you're at work hard. When you're at home, be home. Spend time with your family hard. When you play hard. And just kind of don't try to do all things at all times.
Yeah. So having a family has helped you stay faithful because
Yes.
it's really hard to succeed in these businesses and especially construction and stuff and keep church as a priority.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to people who are struggling with balancing that in their life?
Put God first and God will take care of the rest. Put God first in your finances with tithe. People say they can't afford to tithe. It's no, you can't afford not to tithe. Tithe, give to missions, be faithful to church, be faithful to your family, and God will take care of the rest.
And what is your goal in what are some of your goals in life? Are you hoping that you kind of build a dynasty or a big business or have a bunch of assets and investments that you can pass on to your family so that your family will never struggle?
So I don't have any goals like I want to have $100 million in real estate or $1 billion in real estate, anything like that. It's more, I just want to do better than I am now. I want to do something bigger than I've done before. I just like the challenge. I enjoy the challenge of doing something new, something big and scary. And once you do it, it's not big and scary anymore. You got to find something bigger and scarier to do. I want to have a successful marriage, successful children. I want all my girls to grow up and marry good, godly men, have good grandkids, and just pass down the dynasty of Christianity. I mean, that's my number one priority. And after that, yeah, be able to provide for my family, provide for my wife and maybe my daughters if they need it someday or whatever. Like, wealth brings options, right? I'm not looking to get wealthy because I want to have rich and swim in my gold like Scrooge McDuck or whatever. It's so you
Or
have
Mike
options.
Tyson.
What's that?
Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson, is he swimming his gold?
No, he bought a gold bathtub.
Oh, nice. That doesn't interest me. I don't like baths.
He lost so much money on it.
But wealth gives you options. Right doctor to go to. You can live in the right place. You can go to the right healthcare. You can not have to get vaxxed if your employer says you have to get vaxxed because you have choices, right? So that's where I like to have the freedom to provide my family, which I think God created us to be free beings. Maybe that's still a little bit of my rebellion inside of me, saying I don't want to be told what to do, but that's just who I am. I don't like to be a victim. I like to provide for my family, provide for myself, be self-sufficient, and that's what I enjoy.
So how do you want to be remembered when you pass on to the next life?
Yeah, I just like to help people. I like to be like, hey, Matt was an encourager. He helped me. He taught me stuff. You know, young guys come from poor homes or broken homes. They don't know what to do. They had no mentors. I love to mentor them and say, look, you can be anything you want to be. You just got to work hard. And just because you didn't go to college or you didn't do this or that doesn't mean anything. It means nothing. There's plumbers that make $100,000 a year. Electricians make over $100,000 a year. If you have your own business, you can be a landscaper. You can mow lawns. And if you're an entrepreneur, you can actually make more than someone who's stuck in a job with a salary and you're capped out at 70, 80 grand a year, or you can make a couple $100,000 a year being anything else. You just have to be told that it's possible.
Yeah.
And so many people are not. So many people are told if you don't go to school and you don't invest in 401k, you're going to be broke. You're never going to be anything in life. And that's total opposite.
Yeah. Again, we're in one of your newly renovated apartments here. How much are you going to rent this one out for?
This is a house. This is $2,200.
$2,200.
And it's already rented.
Awesome. Good for you. Cool. Well, yeah, thanks for taking the time to do this.
Thank you.
And if you guys are watching and you want to know more or you want to have some more content, you want to get closer to God, check out our YouTube channel, Lehigh Valley Baptist Church. Watch the preaching, especially on Sunday mornings. Or if you're in the area, come to church. It's at 10:15 a.m. on Sundays. We would love to have you and be our guest. And don't be a stranger. Oh, yeah.
Come meet Shane at church.
Yeah, exactly.
Get your autograph with him.
So thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time.